Welcome back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. This is Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fon over here.
Lorenzo, what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. Yeah. This week we've got Season 1, Episode 15, which is called Trespass, production code 125. I believe that was released on January 30th of 2009.
That's the info I have.
Wonderful.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll just... Yeah. Do you got any Star Wars news this week? I didn't see anything between...
Actually, no. We discussed earlier about Billy D. Williams returning. That's... Oh, the one thing that I did see in between the recordings that I believe I sent off to you was some concept art for the second Thrawn novel.
Oh, yeah. Thrawn...
Yeah. Is it Alliances? Thrawn Alliances?
That sounds correct.
We read books, you and I. We do, just not always Star Wars books. But there's concept art of Padme on the planet of Batuu, which is significant because that is the planet that is being represented at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, Disney Hollywood Studios specifically. So she's hanging around Black Spire, which, as we have heard in the most recent released film Solo, a Star Wars story that L3 gives Black Spire a mention as well. So they're really tying this location in, is what they're doing.
So I just scrolled back through a bunch of messages and pulled up that image, and neither in the message that you sent me nor in the link to the image does it say what the name of the book is. So we'll just go with Allegiance. Allegiance?
Is it Allegiance? Allegiance or Alliance?
Or Alliance.
Yeah. But I do, while you're looking that up, I can definitely fill in some dead air here. What I find really interesting is the approach to canon regarding Star Wars Galaxy Edge in terms of this is a land that is in canon, and what I'm curious about is as the franchise in the movies and the TV show, as it evolves and as it moves forward, how the land will reflect that, if it does.
Right.
Because on the flip side of that, Marvel is getting some representation at Disneyland
right
now, but that exists in its own vacuum canon that looks and sounds like MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
But it is not affected by the events that happen in the movie. It lives in its own, like, hey, this is what's happening here. The movies inform them. They help you understand, like, who Groot is and who Rocket Raccoon is and all that. But, say, the events of Infinity War did not alter the ride, obviously, right?
Right, so half of the people that go on the ride don't
walk off, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which helps the lines, but, I mean, come on.
So, question, is this the second Thrawn novel?
I believe this is the second one, yes.
So, the second one is called Thrawn Alliances. However, the picture on Wikipedia is not the picture of Padme. It is Thrawn and Darth Vader.
Yes, that, I believe, is one of the covers that's happening. Yeah, because it has to be the second book, because the first one only came out last year, like right before I met you.
Okay.
Because I have this weird, vivid memory. I brought the book with me, but I never ended up reading it.
Okay.
Because you and I were chatting in line the entire time.
Yep.
And I think I was still finishing. I had started and did not complete at the time Aftermath. That's the book I was reading at the time.
Right.
So I brought Thrawn as if I finish this book, Thrawn's the backup.
I always grab... I usually take like a paperback because they take up less room.
Yeah.
But plane rides, vacations, whatever, and I never, ever, ever read them because I'm always busy doing something else. But I have the best of intentions. I think,
yes, exactly.
My buddy Kevin, former guest of the show, got married on St. Thomas Island. And so I flew down there, and I had like 2 or 3 Star Wars paperback novels with me, and I don't think I read a single page because I was like, oh, I got plane rides and layovers and all this other shit. Nope. Didn't read a thing.
See, what's funny is when I travel, the plane is the only time I will read.
Really?
And then that book does not get opened until I'm either on the plane back or I'm just on the next trip.
Yeah, I just sleep on the plane. Like, take off in the air, sleep, wake up as, coming in for the approach for landing, and hang out in the airport for a little bit, repeat it if necessary, or whatever. But on the plane, sleeping. Done.
Yeah. See, I think for me it depends on timing. If it's if it's an early morning trip, then I'm going back to sleep. If it's like a 1 p.m. flight, then fuck it, I'm up. So, you know. Yeah. It also depends where I'm going, so.
Yep. So,
anyways,
Thrawn Alliances came out 6 days ago.
Ah, okay. I should probably order that one. See, I order them. They sit on my shelf with the intention that someday, before I die, I will.
You will actually read them.
There's a lot of books on my shelf. It's in my available vision here, and there's like maybe 20 Star Wars books, and I've read 3 of them.
Lorenzo's like staring off stage left, and I don't know what's over there, but I guess it's a bookshelf.
There's a bookshelf and a fan pointed towards me, so.
So he may be staring at the fan. Either way.
Yeah, the comfortable fan. Which, if you aren't located in Southern California, it's been obnoxiously hot.
It's been hot here in the Midwest too, so we're feeling it also.
So basically, it's all hot everywhere. Everywhere is burning up. Everything's on fire. So
it's like the beginning of that movie that came out in 1990, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 90, 89, one of the two.
Something like that. 89 sounds right.
I don't know. I think 90.
I feel like no.
Didn't Batman come out and then?
Batman came out in 89, but why do I feel like the second one was 1990?
I think that was a 92.
You might be right. I feel like 89 or 90 sounds right. Because I don't remember seeing the first one in theaters.
Right.
I remember seeing the second one in theaters. And I was born in 87, so. But for whatever reason, I remember seeing.
So do you think you were 3 when you saw the second one in theaters, or 5? Which one's more realistic here?
I feel like I was 5, but I could
that's probably
be
right.
wrong.
So instead of April O'Neil talking about the heat wave and crime wave in New York City, we gave you a little weather update, and we'll just jump into another newsreel for Trespass. Sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Did we mention the fortune cookie yet?
No, we did not. Good point.
Speaking of, I just slyly looked up the release of the first one. It was 1990, so you are correct there.
Bingo.
1990 indeed. And let's see. Secret of the Ooze was 91. That's a quick turnaround.
That is a quick turnaround.
Damn. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 3 was 1993, which that movie was not good. So
I've seen it one time, and one time.
Oh, it's so bad. So bad. Okay, moving on. Fortune cookie for Trespass.
Fortune cookie. Arrogance diminishes wisdom. Who you got for this one?
Which is my favorite fortune cookie of recent memory. I mean, we're on
it's the
24 solid episodes of talking about this show and or a movie or a couple of movies, and
And
what I like about this one
is we've missed about 5 fortune cookies we wouldn't have had because 4 would have been the
movie
the
itself.
Clone Wars movie. 1 would have been Solo. So we've done, I don't know, 19 of these.
Yeah, basically.
And you like arrogance diminishes wisdom, huh?
Because it's easily one of the shorter ones. It's simple. It's straight to the point. It's very economical, which if you listen to this podcast, neither of us, I would say, are. so I like it when somebody is efficient.
What are you talking about, man? Like, I take like a half a page of notes per episode, and I just watch it while we're doing the show. And these things are like a nice tight 15 minutes, and we're in and out and done.
We're just in and out. We just describe the episode, say what we thought about it, and get the hell on out, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, no. Anyways, you're asking something?
Yeah, I was asking who you would attribute this little blue quote to.
This feels like both a Qui-Gon or a Yoda quote.
Yeah, I definitely wrote down Qui-Gon, and then upon review earlier, I was like, I don't know, is it Qui-Gon? Is it not Qui-Gon? Like, it seems almost too short to be something that Qui-Gon would say.
I agree. Yeah, because he's not an economical fella either when it comes to speaking. So
maybe Obi-Wan. Who you want to go with?
Yeah, Obi-Wan. I could hear Obi-Wan say this too. This one's general enough that I feel like it's a thing that most of the Jedi would kind of agree with and say, yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, where are we starting off in this episode?
We start off with the fortune cookie followed by the newsreel, and in the news, this newsreel is a little different than what we've been seeing the past few episodes, where we don't have like a previously on, we don't have a recap of what's been going on. We just came off of a 2-episode story arc, Jedi Crash and Defenders of Peace. That's not even referenced at all. It basically just jumps straight into letting us know what's going on in this episode. We got this base on a remote planet. Something happened. It's been taken over. We're going in to investigate.
Yes.
I think you probably maybe liked this newsreel a little more than others because the location that we're going to is named outright.
Yes.
Straight up in the beginning. Like,
oh, yeah.
Hey, we got this base on Orto Plutonia.
Yep.
This is what we're doing.
Yep, here are the players involved. It even mentions, it doesn't name them right away, but it mentions dignitaries are following Obi-Wan and Anakin as they go to Orto Plutonia.
And it says where they're from, right?
Yeah, it says they're from the moon Pantora.
Yes. Now, how do you feel about the civilization being from the moon?
I was about to ask you the same thing. Nothing about it bothers me, only because this universe is so bizarre anyways,
right?
That it seems like maybe the moon is more inhabitable than the planet itself, as we see the planet is like a big frozen tundra.
Right. It's
always snowing.
It's a big old ice ball. It's kind of, it's reminiscent of Hoth, with the difference being that Hoth seems more kind of tundra-like, where it's just like large snowy fields or
it's
ice
like
expanses.
Desert in the snow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas this one
desert.
has caves and super valleys and other such geological features. Although I guess you can see like some mountains in the back of some of the snow speeder shots on Hoth.
Yeah.
We'll ignore those.
Like there's some, but it's by and large a big flat.
Yeah, all of the action on Hoth takes place on a flat,
like the plains of Hoth.
Yeah, ice, snow tundra.
Yeah.
Whereas here we've got, and we'll see it throughout this episode, we've got super valleys, we've got hills, we've got mountains, we've got caves and other such things. So I totally agree with you that the planet itself is not hospitable. We don't know what Pantora looks like.
We never see it.
But it definitely reminds me of Pandora. Just
by
name.
That's all I heard the entire time, too. Yeah.
And the people from there are blue.
Which this episode would predate Avatar by the entire year. Avatar doesn't even come out until the end of 2009, so...
Right. James Cameron did work on it for, like, something like...
a bajillion years.
Yeah, 127 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he basically went back in time to develop the technology to be able to make the first Avatar movie. So
I think that's correct.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
Yep. So
he was making the sequels, but then again, Disney distracted him with the Pandora Land at Animal Kingdom. So
I thought that had something to do with Avatar. Shows what I know.
Yeah. So, anyways.
So we got
any
the
reference to Disney parks,
moon
I
of
will like
Pantora around Orto Plutonia. So I tried to do a little Google translation and or define and then type in part of a word, and to the best of my wordsmithing skills, I have come up with the meaning of Orto Plutonia. And that is right angle vegetable garden.
Okay.
So
I
think what I did was like typed in like orto, and that came up as like some type of vegetable garden or something else. And then like Plutonia, aside from like Pluto base, which is the god of the underworld, had something to do with like right angles. So there you go. We are on the planet of the right angle vegetable garden.
All right.
So we land, we sweep in, we land on the planet. The clones are going out to put some sensors up. For some reason, R2-D2 and C-3PO are there, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The Jedi meet up with the Blue Man group, I think is what I called them, and they are the Pantorians, which we have Chairman Cho and Senator Ryo Chuchi. So that's going to be fun this episode. We got Chicho and Chuchi.
Yes.
Chuchi is a female senator of the Republic that represents it sounds like the whole Pantorian system, because at one point in this episode, Chairman Chicho, who is like the planetary president, I guess, is that kind of what you gathered his...
I was confused by what he was a chairman of.
Yeah.
Senator understood.
Yeah,
but Chairman
he's like a chairman
Cho,
of the planet. Or not of the planet, but of the moon.
Yeah, of the moon Pandora. But I was really confused by who was outranking who in this case. Like,
it's
this, yeah.
And I think we may get to that a little bit later, but it seems like they're... I don't know that Chicho outranks Chuchi or Chuchi outranks Chicho, because it's like bosses of different departments, right? Yeah. So she's like the political representative and connection to the Republic, whereas he's I don't know that necessarily he's the ruler of the planet, but
he's like the internal CEO of the moon,
kind of.
And then, like, Senator Chuchi is like face for the shareholders.
Maybe. I was thinking something kind of like she can go to the Senate and talk on the system's behalf, and then when the Senate says yes, no, yay, nay, up, down, whatever, she reports back from the Republic, and she says, this is what we're doing in the Republic, and we're part of the Republic, so you have to abide by these things. And he is the person that takes that information and distributes / enforces it throughout all of his peoples.
That kind of makes sense.
But then at a couple points in time, he definitely seems more militaristic. So let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
So here's the question I have.
Sure.
Why are they with them? Like,
so what happened is that the Republic had a base on the planet. It was attacked by something. So Chairman Chicho thinks that it is the droid army. So they're all meeting there. The Jedi are meeting there because they're the defenders of peace, right? They're the generals with their little clone battalion that they're bringing. Chicho is the chairman of something. Then they've got the senator that are meeting there, and they're going to check this out and see what's going on, and I guess resolve the issue, and or decide what type of response
is action
is necessary.
That makes sense because they kind of quickly glance over that. Like, I know C-3PO gets a line where he says something like a representative of Orto Plutonia like requests a post or something like that. But then it still didn't explain to me why when clones go missing or like when there's radio silence, you know, like you don't. It's not like if a army platoon like went missing in Afghanistan, it's not like you send the president himself to go check that out. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you. But I mean, we've also talked about the way that this war has been fought and kind of dictated, and
yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. Okay. That's all I need to know.
I'm totally in agreement with you. If you're the governor of the United States and I'm the CEO of the North America and we send some people to Hawaii and then we can't get in touch with them, like you and I go with I don't know, a drug lord from Mexico and his cronies from the South Pole, and we all decide what's going on. Like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nope. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay. That's all. That's all I need to know. Anyways, moving forward.
Yeah, Chicho does say something about he asked the Republic to protect this barren wasteland, and that's like those are his words, not mine. I think it looks like a very nice place to vacation, but apparently he doesn't think so. Obi-Wan is like, well, hold up, like, we got to figure out what's going on. You know, if there's people here, then that's a whole nother story, and that then the fate of the planet is decided by the Senate, because essentially the Pantorans have been on the moon of Pantora, and they just laid claim to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And
without really stepping foot on it or anything.
Right. So there's
and Chairman Cho definitely keeps making a claim to the planet, like repeatedly.
Yeah. He says stuff like it's uninhabited, therefore it's the property, it's the, what's he call it, the sovereign property of the moon. And he's like, Pantor. I control the moon, therefore I control the planet. And he says we're the only civilization in this system.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the entire system of planets, the moon of one of those has the intelligent life on it.
And therefore can lay claim to everything around it, which is kind of odd.
Yep. So we enter the base.
Mm-hmm.
C-3PO's got some corny joke about him and R2 being cold and they want to go inside. We see some clone helmets on some sticks. Immediately, Chairman Chicho is like, oh, it's the Separatists, like, let's fight him. And Obi-Wan's like, nah, chill out. Rex reports that they found a droid base, so then they head over there, but we got the same problem that they had on Hoth, where the speeders weren't adapted to the cold, but they have these bikes. They are CK6 swoop bikes. The nickname on them are Freeco bikes, Freeco, and this stands for freezing cold bike because they work in freezing cold. They are 5.8 meters long, and it's kind of interesting because you don't ride them like you ride a bicycle or like a crotch rocket where you're like leaning forward. You're like in a seat leaning back with your feet sticking out in front of you and some controls, and then there's just this giant bubble that like slides over the top of you, and I guess what that is like a little heating bubble.
So it's like it's a recumbent bike setup, basically.
Yeah, that's a way better description than a sitting
than reverse crotch rocket.
Reverse.
It's an ass rocket.
It's like it's like an ass sling thing.
You know, the thing that holds your ass and just you throw wheels on it.
Yes, but they don't have wheels. They kind of have one ski in the front, and then there's like two rocket propulsion things behind them.
Yeah, like it's still mildly floating, right? Like
yes, it is. It definitely is elevated off the ground.
It's still
it is classified as a
hovering.
repulsor lift vehicle. So there you have that.
Okay. Yeah, I like the design of those. Those are at least visually interesting.
Yeah,
they're
not bad. So I think what somebody says is like we don't have enough bikes. So we'll just go and you guys stay or whatever. So they get over to the droid base, which I find interesting because, okay, I can totally understand that there would be droids like down on this planet. And I think I'm going to disagree with myself as soon as I finish the statement. But where the fuck did their base come from, right? And then I thought, maybe I'll disagree with myself because we had the Mickey Mouse picnic blanket unfolding pop-up base from last week.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing is like built into the glacier, like the land glacier, right?
Well, again, like I think when it comes to both bases, they were purpose-built knowing that whatever the system is, the system of either, if you're calling it the system for Pantora or the system for Orto Plutonia, they know it's going to be a stronghold that they need, so they set up some sort of, semi-permanent base on it.
So who's the they in this?
Both the Jedi and the droids.
Right, but that's my question is, if Pantora is a moon that orbits Orto Plutonia, wouldn't they see some comings and goings of some separatist ships coming in to build the base?
Oh, that's my point that I'm getting at too. Is like I don't get why Cho is claiming that the planet is uninhabited, unless he doesn't count droids and he doesn't count Jedi.
I think he's saying as far as like
it's natural wildlife.
Yes.
But still,
when the Europeans came to the United States, it was an uninhabited land, even though there was native peoples.
Yeah. So I think both ends just were flying on their own trajectory and avoided each other, right?
Okay.
It's like when you go to set up like Gettysburg, right? Like, like you still set or whatever. You still you dig your own trenches before you head on out to the battlefield, right? So maybe there's some sort of truce zone or
like a DMZ.
Yeah, there's a DMZ where hey, we're here to set up the base. Do not attack each other while we're in the air. This is not what we're here for. Mm-hmm. We will set up the base and we'll deal with this later.
I can totally get that the Separatists and the Republic would be building bases separately and not messing with each other. But this whole thing with Pantora being... I feel like if we lived on the moon and we sent some people from Mars to Earth to build a base so they could protect the Earth, and then some people from Andromeda came in and landed on Earth and built their own base, we would notice. That's all I'm saying. I feel like the Pantorans would have figured out what was going on.
Yeah, probably. They would have sensed something. But at any point, so does Cho explicitly say that he doesn't know that Separatists are there, or?
Well, he's pushing the whole time it must be the Separatists, it must be the Separatists, and Obi-Wan is hey, calm down, you don't know that. We need to prove that first before we react to that. And he's no, it has to be them. But he's not giving up any type of information that would inform anyone else that he is making this as an educated decision. It's it's the way everything is coming across is as though it's instinctual and he's just casting blame immediately without any proof.
which is fine because that's what I get out of Cho's actions there as well.
Right.
But why do you feel that it's necessary for him to have seen?
I'm just
or
saying
know
that
about.
I just think that if somebody was building a base on your fucking planet that your moon is orbiting, that you would have noticed that something was going on. So before any of this shit could have happened, he could have radioed or called Chuchi and been like, "Yo, Chuchi, like, while you're at the Senate, like, talk to the Senate because we got some separatists like on our planet."
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Like, I see, like from my general understanding, I feel that everybody is aware that they are there.
Okay.
Why things haven't been done about it before or after or whatever.
Okay.
That's something separate that I have no information on, and I can't begin to fathom
Right.
why that's ignored, right?
Okay.
It's again because like the separatists do have some sway with the Senate, right?
Uh-huh.
Like there's still some sort of like sovereign identity where they're like, hey, they want to set up base, we can't touch them. You know.
Okay.
So like Cho is probably very aware that separatists are there.
Okay.
You know, his accusations have nothing to do with the fact that they are there or they are not, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know that I disagree with the way that he would have handled the situation. But that's all right.
Yeah.
I feel like if he knew, he would have been trying to do something about it. And that when he's walking in like, "Oh, there's clones dead," like obviously it was the separatists. Like, let's go get them. Not like, I told you guys there was fucking separatists here, and you didn't believe me, and now this is what happened.
Well, again, because he's coming from a place with so little evidence.
Okay.
That's why Obi-Wan and Chuchi herself in a later scene, I don't think that's right here, but she brushes him off too.
It's coming up pretty soon, I think.
It's coming up soon, so I'll just address it here. Because Chuchi is like, I don't think this is separatists, and Cho is like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what else could it be? And Chuchi's like, well, there aren't blast marks. There aren't droids anywhere. There aren't dead droids.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like...
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
So Chuchi tries to come in with evidence. What I'm getting out of this from Cho is that they are setting up his character as basically like a stupid racist is what he is, right?
Okay.
Now, racists don't have logic. You know, it doesn't matter.
Have reaction.
They have reaction. They have emotional gut reactions. There's no reasoning with it, right?
Right.
Like, oh, the Mexicans are taking my jobs. Like, are they? Like, you have a job, you know?
Right. Do you want the job that they're doing? No, I wouldn't do that. Well, then they're not taking your job.
Then shut up, you know? Like, let them do that. Let them do the work, you know? So it's again, it's a guttural action that would have happened whether or not any other circumstance had changed, right? Other than the fact that the war itself is happening.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm on board.
Yep. Okay. So moving on.
So when we get to the droid base, we then see droid heads on a stick.
Yes.
This tells everyone except for Chairman Cho that there's something else going on here.
Yeah, because the droids are also have been attacked in a similar manner.
Yes, at one point Anakin
obvious.
gets put on like beacon duty with the rest of the clones, and then they're kind of walking around, and he's like, "Yo, Master Kenobi, we found these big." He doesn't call them Bigfoot. What does he call? Oh, we found these large footprints, and
yeah.
And I thought it was awesome because Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, make a cast of it." And to me, this was a parallel to going out in the woods and finding like Bigfoot prints. So they're like all of a sudden on a Bigfoot hunt, which I thought was pretty cool.
I also like the idea that Obi-Wan and Anakin are both like zoologists or whatever, primatologists, enough to be like, oh shit, we don't know what that is, so make a cast of it and we'll analyze it later. But, you know, it's important to note what that is.
I thought Obi-Wan just had like a foot fetish or something.
Like a Quentin Tarantino-esque foot fetish. Like,
yeah. My
so he just wants to
note was
make that cast and take it home.
Annie finds footprints. Large equals Bigfoot. Obi-Wan wants a cast. Weird.
Yeah. No, man, it's all in service of science. So
Obi-Wan then finds a hollow recording of essentially a Bigfoot attack.
Yep.
Where these big white furry things come in and attack all the droids. And I guess there was no security camera footage at the clone base. So this is where
Why would there be?
This is where we actually find out what's going on. Captain Blue Man talks about like years and years of war and how he's seen planets rise and fall, and they need to do what's best for the security of their people. He's trying to convince Chuchi that, like, to be on his side, because Obi-Wan says, hey, wait, time out. There's video evidence here of
Yes.
some sort of life involved in this situation. And what he says is that they need to investigate and find out what said life is, and if it's non-sentient wildlife, then, you know, full speed ahead. Chicho is still in charge, but if it is some type of sentient species, then they deserve to be the masters of their own planet.
Yeah.
And Chicho's like, nope, this is ours. Like, it's always been ours.
Yeah.
We've been here
we've
forever.
already claimed it, and if they're here, then they are also ours. Yeah, they are also ours. Great.
Right.
Thank you. Fantastic.
And not only are they also ours, but they're also dumb. So they can't possibly be smart, because then we would have known about them. So they're probably just big dumb beasts, and it's still my planet, even though I live on the moon.
Yes. Yep.
We're all good on that, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan's reaction, other than to just that, but he's talking to Anakin, and he's basically like, yo, Annie, like, these things are what attacked both bases. Something went down. My guess is that the droids antagonized them, got attacked, and then our clones got caught up in the middle of this mess. So they actually take off on the speeder bikes that we were talking about, the CK6 swoop bikes.
Yep.
And what they go, and I don't remember how this works, because they end up at like while
they were watching the hologram footage, somebody brought up that the droids were investigating the Southern Canyon. So Obi-Wan and Anakin go to investigate the Southern Canyon to see what the droids stumbled upon.
Yeah. What's a canyon again? I'm not familiar with that word. Canyon?
Canyon?
Canyon.
Like canyon? Like a deeper valley? Deeper than a valley?
Like a super valley?
Yes, super valley.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they're in the South Super Valley.
Super deep valley, yeah.
Okay.
So
they go, that's what it is. So they go to investigate the Super Valley.
But they call it the canyon, though.
Right.
Yeah. What?
Call back to a previous episode
of
Super Valleys. Super Valleys.
It's gone from me. Gone from me now.
Damn it, Lorenzo.
As soon as I edit these, they are out of my mind.
Super Valley. I'm sticking with it. So they go to investigate the Super Valley, and this is where they meet these furry white things,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
You get the name of them,
very
don't you?
fuzzy. They come later, so I don't know if you want to mention them now. They do get named, which does please me. They aren't named immediately.
Might as well name drop them now, and that way we can call them what they are instead of beating around the bush.
Okay, they are called the Talz. Talz.
Yep.
Now, here's what's confusing about the naming of them when they do get named.
Okay.
So, skipping forward a little bit. Well, here, let's just breeze through this, because so Obi-Wan and Anakin encounter these creatures called the Talz.
Mm-hmm.
There is no attack, but there's also no C-3PO to translate, so they do their best kind of drawing.
Yeah, Anakin is kind of like,
forth.
well, how are we going to communicate with them? And And Obi-Wan's like, just chill, like, we'll figure it out. And then one of them sounds like all aggressive, and Anakin says something, and Obi-Wan straight up is like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
And then they go inside,
let's work through this.
their little hut, there's a fire, and they're grunting and talking to each other, and then Anakin's the one that figures out how to communicate, and he draws a fucking picture on a piece of bark or something.
Yep.
And his depiction of peace is like a large towels-shaped being and a smaller human-shaped being holding hands.
Yeah.
So,
which is weird that they couldn't just initiate that action and just be like, look, we're friendly. We're not going to hurt you. Hugs.
It's even weirder come later.
Yeah. So, anyways, so there's an extension of peace that happens based on these drawings.
Yep.
So then back at the base, Obi-Wan returns and informs Cho that the planet is indeed inhabited. Then Obi-Wan brings up the name of the species.
Towels.
Unprompted. He just goes, yeah, the towels here are blah, blah, blah. Now, again, there's no C-3PO to translate. Where the hell did he get this information from?
Maybe he's got some type of, like, Wikipedia in his CK6 swoop bike. Or maybe he was able to... There's a time break, so, I mean, potentially he could have had some opportunity to look up the information and or this breakthrough with the drawing initiated some more communication.
Because you have to remember, too, because, like, Cho thinks the planet's uninhabited. They all think the planet's uninhabited, so there can't be information on these creatures, per se.
And I did look up the towels on Wikipedia, and it says that they are from... that they're from Orto Plutonia. So it's not like... You know how sometimes you look up species and it's like... Can be found on the ice planet of Hoth. Or... the desert planet of Tatooine. Mm-hmm. Which one wouldn't make any sense, and two is just super convenient. But these guys are the sentient species native to the planet Orto Plutonia.
They're not only native, they're exclusive to, right?
Yes, on which they remained undiscovered until the Clone Wars. So this would have been the first meeting with outside civilization.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, there's no way Obi-Wan could stop to look up anything, you know.
Do you think that perhaps in Arabesh or some other type of more antiquated Star Wars language than basic, that Tals means something? Like, did Obi-Wan name the Tals as though he discovered a dinosaur and named it Raptor because it was a bird of prey, so he's naming it Towels, and that can be broke down to something else?
It doesn't seem like Obi-Wan's style to try and take on that authority to name something like that.
Okay.
You know? I mean, the dude gets berated for trying to find a planet in the Jedi archives, right? Like,
oh, that is true.
You know, and he even goes to Yoda and is like, yo, help me out. Like, what the fuck? You know? So it's not in my understanding of his character that he would just outright call these creatures by a name and hope it sticks.
Okay.
He would have needed to get that from them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right. And there is something kind of funny going on with their communication a little bit, because here we've got basic and we've got Tals speak, if you want to call it that. And neither of them can communicate with each other until Anakin draws on some bark. And then the next scene we see, there definitely seems to be some sort of information that was communicated back and forth. Because Chuchi is like, well, if they're here, then they belong to us because everything belongs to us because this planet belongs to us.
Yeah.
And Anakin... we're probably not going exactly in order here, but Anakin is like, well, you know, we told him that we're not here to attack. We're here peacefully. There's going to be no retribution, like, you know, misunderstanding with the attacks on these two bases. Like, we're going to leave them alone and get out of here, basically. And Chochi's all pissed off, and he goes to Chi-Chu, and he's like, look, you need to go to the Senate and tell them that, like, these savages are on our planet, and it's our planet. Like, have my back. And she's like, no, we can't do that. And somebody brings up the Convention of Civilized Systems. That was...
Yeah, Chuchi, I believe, mentions that the Senate has to make like an overall decision.
So the Convention of Civilized Systems was a galactic republic law that was related to methods for determining a species sentience. So what that did is, if you found new area, territory, planet, moon, whatever, and you found a new species on it, like the Tals and or the Ewoks, I guess there was a series of things that happened to determine whether or not these species were sentient or if they were just wildlife, right?
Yeah.
And if they were deemed by the Convention of Civilized Systems and the Galactic Republic to be sentient, then they would essentially be given ownership of the area that they're living because it's theirs. They're already there. They've claimed it. Like, you can't just come in and be like, fuck you Ewoks, like, get out of here, this is my jungle. Like, they're there, they own it. So that's what that's about.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm reading something else, but that's why that was that's why that's referenced, and it looks to me like the only thing that had to do with is like this episode, which is
so it's only brought up here and never
it's
really
only
ever
brought up here, but it's got enough. It's got some basis to make sense, right? Like,
yeah.
Chuchi is like, no, we can't just take the planet. Like, now there's another thing that came into play. It doesn't matter what we've thought in the past. Like, we found this new information and we have to act on it accordingly. And this doesn't.
And Cho in the scene especially really goes off the hinges for me. Like, understandably, like, it's in his character. It's not a writing based issue I have. It's just definitely a character based thing.
He's definitely over the top.
Yeah, because he calls them trespassers. So this is where the title of the episode comes from. He calls them trespassers on what he calls his planet. But then Obi-Wan is like, well, they're primitive enough that they don't seem like they've ever actually went into space or left this planet, period.
Right.
Which would mean that they've been here before you guys have, right?
Yeah, Obi-Wan states that straight up. Like,
yeah,
they're too primitive for space travel, so they've been here for probably tens of thousands of years, or like, I think he says long before you.
Yeah, exactly.
And my guesstimate is that on the moon of Pantora, the civilization has been established there for quite a while. Right.
Yeah. Which, now, back to your point, Pandora is orbiting around Orto Plutonia.
Correct.
Nobody's really gone out to check on this planet in,
so
thousands of generations.
I guess that maybe they have, but it's too cold. I'm not really sure.
So they just turn around and fuck off, like.
Yeah, or they just never ran into him.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, how long did people, the panda was a mythological creature for a long time. Before it was discovered. Bigfoot is still considered a cryptozoological mythological creature because people haven't found it yet, except for Obi-Wan and Anakin, who got some foot castings of it.
Yep, they got the foot castings. Yep.
So, maybe in the American Northwest, there are some Bigfoot running around.
Hiding out there somewhere.
I looked up some Bigfoot sightings in Missouri one time just to see what there were, and there was one in the city that I live in, which is very highly populated. So there's that.
There was.
Somebody.
Yeah, there's
some guy and his wife that were fishing on the river in a John boat saw a big hairy thing.
But here's the thing, though. Like, at least, like, in these cases, there are always, like, these legends that float around, right? So Bigfoot, Bigfoot being real, not real, whatever, at least it's, like, a thing that's in the public consciousness, whether there's evidence to it or not, right? Cho comes in and is like, no, there's literally nothing here, period, ever, never was, ever, End of story.
Yeah, this is like the opposite case scenario where it's like legend has it that there's nothing here, so that's what he believes, as opposed to legend says that there is something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's definitely very adamant. I mean, he is downright combative to everyone that doesn't agree with him, that this is his damn planet, and if there's people here, they're savages, and we need to fucking go and kill them all because they're invading his space. So I don't know what type of skin he's got in the game for the declaration of ownership of this planet, but it's something. Maybe that's what he's the chairman of.
Pretty much most of my notes involving him are Cho something battle, Cho wants to attack, Cho has bloodlust at some point I write just to change it up. Pretty much all my notes revolve him having a stick up his butt to get some blood.
Yeah, I've got stuff that's like Chicho orders attack, Obi-Wan disagree, Chicho orders attack anyway.
Yep.
Anakin talks to... So, to breeze forward a little bit, what happens is that they had Obi-Wan, they being Obi-Wan and Anakin, had set up a meeting with the Chief. The Chief gets a name. God damn it. The Chief gets a name later. Tyson. It's spelled Thi, but it's pronounced Tie.
Yeah.
Chieftain Tyson sets up a meeting with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. Anakin's like, all right, we're going to bring the chairman, we're going to bring the senator. And they decide to bring C-3PO so that he can translate. So there's a limited number of these bikes, right? So they all kind of load up and they head over there. It's at this point that something happens along the way, and they end up stopped because one of the tiles is like out in the middle of the Super Valley, right? So they stop, and then Chicho like orders an attack, and then all these other tiles pop up. So clearly the tiles didn't trust the Jedi or the Pantorans.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan by no means is surprised by this at all.
Fights ensue. We got a couple of fights that come along. C-3PO does end up doing some translation here, and this is where we get Tai Sen's name. It translates to Son of Sun. So kind of going back to what you were saying, if this is a new species that is being discovered, nobody has ever known about the Tals before. One, where did we come up with the name Tals? And two, how does C-3PO understand them?
Yeah, I was trying to...
Because
I had that question too.
He's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication, right? But he's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication used by the Republic. So even like if you look back at Empire Strikes Back, the probe droid that comes down and hits Hoth, another ice planet, is like bam 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 bam, you know. And C-3PO recognizes it as potentially some type of communication used by the Empire, but it's not something that he understands because it is not communication that was used by the Republic.
Yes, yeah. I wonder if he's also programmed to, if he listens to it enough, if he's able to make the connections of like noun, verb, subject.
So he's doing like some Indiana Jones translation of like Maya to Aztec to click-clack to scratchy rocks.
Yes. Yeah, basically was what's happening, right? Like,
okay.
That would be my guess. You know, it's like he's the one doing internal translation as he's like working out what is exactly being said, but it's happening on the fly.
Yeah, and so what happens is Chicho starts telling C-3PO to translate, and he's like, listen, droid, you're going to tell him everything I say, exactly the way I say it, and Obi-Wan's
and
like...
literally all he really says is like, yo, this is our planet, we're going to fight.
He
like,
says, I own this planet, you can't tell me to do anything.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's like shaking his head like, fuck, this dude just made it way harder than it needs to be. So
now, there is a scene... Real quick, there is a scene earlier in the episode where they kind of talk about how the senators technically outrank the Jedi, and therefore the chairman himself still outranks them because he is of a governmental body.
Yeah, because Chicho says the Jedi serve the Senate, and I have the Senate with me, being the senator from my planet. So if he can convince her to agree with him, then the Jedi are technically supposed to agree with her because she's part of the Senate. It's a trickle-down effect. But he is not her boss. Chicho is not Chuchi's boss, so he has to convince her, and then in his eyes, then the Jedi have to listen to her.
Yes, but then he just perverts it and just starts spewing his shit all over the place. So it's just very interesting to me that Obi-Wan and Anakin don't even try to put up an argument with him. They just kind of... I don't know if they're like letting him try to like dig his own grave or what, you know.
Mm-hmm. Anakin kind of seems like the dumb sidekick in this episode, where he doesn't contribute too much, except for like, "Hey master, look, a footprint," and "How are we going to communicate?" and "I'll draw some stick figures," and is just kind of along for the ride. Yeah. Side note,
it seems very against character for him.
Side note: Ahsoka is not in this episode at all.
Nope.
So if Ahsoka was in this episode, it would be Anakin and Ahsoka instead of Obi-Wan and Anakin, which I think would have worked equally as well. I think that.
Yeah, honestly, because like this story is not the Jedi's per se. You know, they're the familiar faces that we are seeing the story told through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's kind of my point. Like they're definitely kind of just sitting there like, oh shit, should we stop him? I mean, nope, it's too late. Fuck it. He's causing a ruckus. Fuck. Like why does C-3PO of all people, or you know, droids, go along with translating it, right? Like when he just be like, yeah, this is a bad idea. Like, Obi-Wan, like you want to help me out here? Like,
right.
You know. So
yeah, the logistics of why they're doing what they're doing are a little murky.
Yeah, because Anakin up to this point has been so just even not physically so, but like just even emotionally or ideologically combative with directives given to him.
And in this episode, he's kind of playing a game of follow the leader.
Yeah, he's just like, all right, well, we got to listen to this dumbass, so even though he's getting our men killed, we'll just...
He's got a couple of lines throughout the episode that, you know, back up what Obi-Wan is saying with not necessarily some new information, and, you know, that's kind of that. He's the tag-along sidekick, there for moral support, I suppose. Instead of just having a one-on-one battle, we've got a two-on-two battle or whatever.
Because what's weird is, like, you have Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Senator Chuchi, who, so this is before they actually do end up fighting, because, like, so the Tells pop out of the snow, they stop to talk to the chief for a hot second, and Cho is being an asshole who's demanding obedience.
Yep.
Right.
And then
Chuchi steps in and tries to be diplomatic with Cho, and is like, look, we can't actually declare war. Like, this is not what we do.
Right.
Like, you don't have the power, I don't have the power.
That's totally what he does, though. Because the chief is talking through C-3PO, and he's like, we just want to be left alone. So, like, leave us alone, everything's going to be fine.
Just leave us, get off the planet, that's fine. Just,
and Chicho's like, no, we're not leaving. This is our planet. If anybody's leaving, you're leaving. And
Cho is very...
So Tai-Sen is like,
adamant about
look,
this.
either leave or it's going to be war. Because we'll fight for our homes, essentially. We're going to fight for our freedom because this is our place. And Chicho says, all right, then it's war. And this is when our two parties split up for a little bit. So
yeah. Because then Anakin... So, like, the one last note I want to bring up, because this is... I want to keep building the case of why Cho is a major fucking asshole, as if we didn't make that clear enough.
Right.
But Anakin does mention to Chuchi, and I don't know why Chuchi doesn't fucking know this herself.
Okay.
Or it's one of those storytelling devices like, hey, isn't blah, 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 this thing you should already know a thing, but I'm going to say it out loud so our audience also knows about it. But a preemptive strike against any other, like, system or whatever is illegal. Mm-hmm. It's brought up explicitly. Like,
right.
He says that it's
with
fully
the
illegal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
We can't
illegal.
do this. It's illegal.
Yeah. So then the fight ensues. Like, Cho fucking steps all the way past that line. Like, you know, not even a question.
Right, and it's at this point that this weird thing happens with the clones, where Chicho orders an attack, and Rex says, we're only here to protect. Some towels pop up. Chicho shouts, it's a trap, which should have been a line in another episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't really tickle my feels there, but whatever. And the clones are like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we can defend you. We're not supposed to be here to fight. And at one point, Rex is talking, I think earlier was talking to Anakin, and he's like, Anakin, this fucking Chicho guy wants us to fight for him. What am I supposed to do? And Anakin's like, hey, just go protect him, like keep him from getting dead. And but essentially you have to take his orders and listen to him or something.
Yeah, again, chain of command issue.
It was
right.
It does have this weird chain of command thing.
Yeah, like if the Jedi have to listen to him, then essentially when the Jedi are not part of the equation, then he still outranks everybody anyway. So
yeah,
you know, and also like, hey Rex, don't die yourself, right? Like, so anyways, so while that is happening, there's a decent battle happening, and then cutting back to Obi-Wan and Chuchi. Obi-Wan tells Chuchi that a way to kind of go around Chairman Cho is to file a petition for intervention from the Jedi with some other power that is not Chairman Cho.
Right.
And then
he's basically using like a loophole, like, hey, if you ask us for help, then we can intervene.
Yes. Yeah. And then so she brings up that, yeah, well, there is the Speaker of the Assembly that we could talk to. Like, he would be the one to go to, right? So she's like, that's a good plan, but it has to be approved by the Speaker of the Assembly.
I named him Dalsim because he looked like the dude from Street Fighter.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, because we see him in the hologram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we get that. But before we get there, though, so... wait, no.
You're pretty
okay,
well there. I mean, we've got a fight that's going on.
Right.
They're kind of... The good guys are kind of ambushed by the Towels, and then... the clones do some pretty awesome stuff with their speeder bikes, where they like create a perimeter with speeder bikes. They're on the inside. They're doing what they can to defend. The Towels are riding up on these things called narglatches, which are like these feline things with some kind of bony head-looking bases. I don't know. They're supposed to be quadruped, feline-based. They're called narglatches. The weapons that the Tals use, all the spears and the headdresses, are either made out of the narglatch bone or the narglatch hide.
Interesting. All right. That much I did not look into. But in this fight, as we near the end of this specific fight, Cho gets a spear in the back.
He does get a spear in the back because he's a douchebag.
Yep, he goes on down. He's still conscious. He just definitely gets a almost Forrest Gump like oh shit, something bit me, and then goes down sort of thing. We cut back to Chuchi. She and Obi-Wan are in the ship. They are speaking to the Speaker of the Assembly, who does decide, or the Assembly as a group we never meet the rest of this assembly.
Mm-hmm.
But the speaker says that the assembly has decided that Cho is out of order. His actions are out of order. So, Chuchi, you are authorized to negotiate on our behalf.
Right. Essentially, now you outrank him. It doesn't matter what he says. You're in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. He can go fuck off. He can go suck a bag of dicks, apparently. So, Chuchi asks Obi-Wan to negotiate because she, for some reason, doesn't want to and is or afraid.
And Obi-Wan, he says that he can't, right?
Yes, and appropriately so. Obi-Wan says, no, like, this is not...
Oh, that's right. That's right.
A Jedi's place to step in.
Yeah, he says, you guys fucked it up. Like, you created this problem. You fix the problem.
Yeah, if you are a senator. This is your job. This is literally your job. Right. Go do it.
If you would have listened to me, this wouldn't have happened. But your dude created the problem, so it's your problem to fix.
Exactly.
I thought that was fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was a super badass Obi-Wan moment in terms of pure diplomacy. Like, it's not an action outright that he does, but just in his manner of speaking and the way that it's delivered.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an awesome moment from him because it essentially encapsulates everything I was kind of feeling right at that moment about this episode, right? So then they catch up to Cho during the battle, right?
Well, they kind of catch up to him, right? I think what happens is that Rex and a couple other clones like swoop in and grab Cho and take off on speeder bikes because I do have a note that like this battle that's going on with the Narglatch and the Tals and the clones and the Pantorians is pretty cool. Like the way it's choreographed, like everything is flowing and like working in a fashion that you can feel that there is some logic to what's going on here.
Yes.
And the Tals are winning. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Oh, yeah.
I think I kept track of, like, who killed who, including, like, the Narglash and whatever, and that doesn't really matter. The way that it flows, the clones and Chuchi and a couple of homies that he's got with him or Chicho, rather, are getting their ass whooped. So after Chicho gets stabbed in the back with a flying spear,
like just a stray spear, essentially. Yeah.
Rex comes from like stage right with a speeder and like does this awesome Tokyo drift thing and like knocking some tiles out the way, and then picks up Cho and throws him over the front, and all the remaining clones that are alive take off. This is when they meet up with Obi-Wan and Chuchi.
Yes. Yep.
And so then Chuchi and Chicho have a conversation because he's dying. He's like, he says something like, "Before I die, I order you to fucking kill these bastards. Like, don't let me die in vain." And like something super dramatic, but he straight up says like, "I order you to continue fighting and murder every single one of them," or something like that, right? And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it."
She basically says it right as he's dying, and the last thing he gets to know as he's dying is like, "Oh fuck, like I'm an asshole," like, which I thought was pretty cool. He basically throws out the call. He's like, "Avenge me!" Wait, no, it's not happening, and dies. Like,
yep.
Which I thoroughly enjoyed up to this point. Everything about that, I enjoyed all of it. That development, fantastic.
So she does what Obi-Wan told her that she needed to do, and she is going to go negotiate with High Chieftain Tai Sen. And she's like, "You droid, come with me." She takes Chicho's helmet and one of the spears.
Yes.
Walks up and she says, "Translate for me." And she's holding the spear like above her head, and you see it like come down toward the camera in like a stabbing motion. Yeah. And for a split second you can be like, all right, what's going on? Even though like it's a kid's show, right? Is she gonna... Yeah. But the anticipation is supposed to be building where it's like, is she attacking or what is she doing, right? She stabs it into the ground and then puts Chairman Cho's helmet on top of it. And she says, to die for one's people is a great sacrifice. To live for one's people is an even greater sacrifice. 3PO says, Chum chala morbi trophy, chum chala yobi trophy che. So I guess that's what the Tals dude, Chief Tyson, says. Followed by some more stuff. But basically, they're talking back and forth to each other. And she's like, what her point is that you got to make the decision that is right. You do what's right. And what's right here is for us to see you later and leave you to your planet. Like, you fought us because what you were doing is defending your people. This guy was being an asshole and was out of line, and now I have to apologize for him.
Yep.
So things are mended. Things are all right. Another thing she says is, I choose to live for my people. What do you choose? And after a little mi chala cho, sum you chala cho, C-3PO gets the message back, and he says in a celebratory voice that he chooses to live. So at this point, Chi-Chu recognizes the Tal's sovereignty and says, hey, we'll leave. You can have your planet back. Everybody bows to each other, and that's the end of the conflict.
Yep.
The Tals leave. Yep. We've got some hero music. Jedi congratulate each other, which is kind of weird, and congratulate Chuchi, and everything's golden. Obi-Wan's got a little PSA announcement here as they're walking back to their ship, which I found a little bit odd because as I watched this, like the second, third, or fourth time or whatever, they're walking back to the ship, and Obi-Wan's talking to Chuchi, and he's giving her the speech, and he's like, you know, Senator, if I can give you any advice, make it last and be an example to others. And I'm like, all right, well, there's a bumper sticker, because he's like, you know, you solved this war. You stopped this war. Now go teach others what you have learned so we can stop other wars also.
Exactly. As they're fighting a super long, endless war.
And then they got in the same ship. Like, they had to stop in the fucking cold. Like, this blue lady has rosy cheeks and a rosy nose. So, you know it's cold.
It's cold as fuck.
It's cold as fuck. And our Jedi have been bundled up the whole time. The troopers actually have some, like, kind of snow trooper armor on, which I thought was cool, except for Rex. Because at first I thought he just had, like, some, like, balaclava, like, face drapery going on to, like, cover up the bottom half of his helmet, which doesn't make any sense anyway, because A, it should be climate controlled, and B, there was, like, no seam between, like, this face veil and his helmet. But then I realized that it's like actually
attached to it, right?
It's actually like a completely different helmet, because like the back is like flared, and then I really didn't like that because it still had like the same markings like painted on it, but like still with like wear as though it had been used multiple times. So I didn't understand that, and that got under my skin a little bit.
There's probably been other snowy planets that they've all been on, right?
But why would Rex be on all of these snowy planets?
You never know.
Like, why isn't he should just be in his normal armor. And I get that, you know, like, okay, me, Anakin, I'm taking my dude Rex, like, hey, grab some snow troopers because we're going to a new place, brother. Like, don't take all the normal guys like the jungle dudes, like, they'll stick out because they're painted green and shit. Like, grab the snow troopers. Like, we're ordering some snow troopers. We'll have Uber drop them off on the way.
Are snow troopers trained specifically to be snow troopers, or?
I know that in one of the what are those Del Rey like expanded interior books. What are those called?
Like, they're like one of the encyclopedias, or?
Yeah, I guess it's like a visual encyclopedia. That's probably better than like expanded whatever I just called it. they had
the visual
like
dictionaries.
the incredible cross sections. That's what they are.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There is an incredible cross section of Camino, and I believe that like the lower level is, it's like the danger room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like specialty training for troopers, and I think that it was a Hoth type environment. So I believe that there are troopers that are specifically trained to go out in specific environments.
So they are specifically training down there for that, but not everybody's getting churned through like all the various like danger rooms.
Correct. So not everybody goes to planet level Hoth or Teth or Tatooine or
like
or
Naboo
like
and
the
it's
cream
watery.
colored troopers that are on what's the beach in Rogue One?
Oh shit. It will come back to me someday.
Yep.
Our brains are not working today.
Not right now.
We're recording on a Friday, so it's the end of the
Friday.
week. What is it? It's son of a bitch. I feel so bad. We couldn't remember when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out. Can't remember this now.
We'll make ourselves sound smarter, and we'll just cut this out because I'm gonna look it up right now. Rogue One Planet. One Planet.
Son of a bitch.
I'm actually gonna make a note. At 124.
Well, let's see. They go to. I got nothing. Oh, Scarif.
Okay.
Scarif. There we go.
We're gonna break back into this. Much like the cream-colored troopers on Scarif and Rogue One, I think that those are like beach troopers, maybe.
Okay.
So that their armor and or their equipment is specialized to work in certain environments.
Okay. Maybe Rex is just that good, though, right? Like.
So he just has a whole bunch of. He has a whole bunch of different helmets with the same markings on them. I can accept that. He's not going to have a whole bunch of different helmets with the same markings and the same wear pattern.
Yeah, that is a good point. Maybe it's just like, maybe they're all in a bucket and they're just like bumping into each other. So the wear and tear is just from like the chest of helmets. Like, it's like you can have like a box full of footballs that don't get used for all summer long. And then you open them up in the fall, right as football season starts.
All have the same wear and tear on them.
Oh yeah, they all look like shit for some weird reason. Like complete shit.
Okay.
Like they've been dragged through the mud, right? So
it's Filoni baloney, man.
That's exactly what happened.
But hey, if that's the biggest criticism that we got going on is whether or not
if our sticking point,
Rex's helmet is realistic or not.
Hey, at least there's some battle damage on it, right? Like that's the one good thing about a CG show is that you can kind of program that shit in and have that. That was kind of always growing up when hand drawn animation was the thing for like a weekly series, and especially in a lot of television anime series,
right?
That involve like mechs, right?
Right.
Like the mechs are like fucking destroying each other,
right?
But like none of them have a scratch on them because they don't want to have to draw and keep constant all the scratches and damage and shit like that,
Gotcha.
So maybe they're just like, hey, let's just throw a bunch of fucking damage on it. Just hit a Control C, Control V, fuck it, like
copy paste.
Moving on, just fucking moving on, So
do you got anything else on this before we come to our opinions?
We covered the episode pretty darn well.
Our opinions to ourselves the entire time. Yeah. I've got one more thing.
Go for it.
So earlier in the episode, you were talking about Obi-Wan and Senator Chichu flying in the ship.
Senator or the chairman?
The senator.
Cho. Okay. Wait. What? Sorry. The senator?
Yes. Chuchi.
Chuchi.
I said Chichu. Man, I'm not good at this. Chuchi.
Yeah, that's why I just stuck with Cho and Chuchi. Cho.
That was
yeah,
probably
those are
smarter.
different enough. Yeah, those are different enough that I can understand Cho and Chuchi.
So her full name is Rio Chuchi, and she and Obi-Wan are flying in a lat, and the camera angle that we have is kind of like from the cockpit back, so you can see like the triangular walls coming down on either side, and it looks kind of dark, and it looks like this whole thing is like nice and self-contained, because I've bitched a lot about these lats where they use them in areas that areas of atmosphere that I slightly disagree with whether or not the people inside would be able to still be alive, right?
Yeah.
So in that instance, I'm like, all right, these garage doors or the sliding minivan doors like close all the way, and they're like sealed in, everything's good. But the last shot, or the second to last shot that we get in this episode, when the Senator Chuchi and Obi-Wan get into a lat, the doors close, and you see them like seal closed, and then as it flies off, you can see her looking out like the oval hole in the door, and then I got angry again. As I watched it another time and subsequent times, I'm lightening up a little bit on these lats, and I'm thinking what happens is that maybe there's a couple different door designs, right? And maybe some of the doors are able to seal all the way, and then even these like little oval-shaped slits, they're not really oval, they're straight and they're rounded at the top and the bottom, so whatever shape that is. Elongated pill shape, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Maybe those have like another little door that can seal that off, in which case you would be able to fly the thing, some of them under certain conditions in non-atmospheric environments.
Okay, yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going on record saying I may have lightened up on these things a little bit, but we'll have to see how consistent we are with that moving forward.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye, because maybe like what are they, like rounded rectangles essentially, right? Like,
yeah. Yep.
So maybe those are like defensive gunner positions, right?
Right.
Possibly, So
like in Daniel Boone's home here in St. Charles County. There was like bricks that were not built into his house, so he could sit in his rocking chair and point his shotgun out or his rifle out through the wall and shoot shit if he needed to.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, man. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Field trips, brother. Field trips.
See, that's a cool field trip. We didn't have any cool places to go in Michigan, so.
I'm sure you have plenty of cool places to go in Michigan. You go to like Flint, Michigan, and Flint. Detroit, Michigan.
No.
You could have went to the trailer park that Eminem used to live in, even though he's actually from Missouri, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Well, Detroit's what he considers his home.
That is true.
Same with Tim Allen. Tim Allen's from like what, Montana or something like that. But he considers Michigan his home. So
he is from prison.
Well, that too. Yeah, he. His famous mugshot is from Kalamazoo, Michigan. So that's about an hour south of where my parents live. So. Yep.
So you're saying that your dad was friends with Tim Allen?
Oh, surely, yeah. My dad has some weird stories that I don't know what to believe. He claims to have played blackjack at the same table as one Michael Jordan. So,
was he in Chicago?
Yes.
Are there casinos in Chicago?
Outside of Illinois, I think they're on the Indiana side of the border.
Okay.
But it was somewhere in the area or something like that. So my dad claims to have sat down at a table, and Michael Jordan was across the table playing blackjack. And my dad has made this claim. It's an anecdote more than it is a story.
Right.
So that one, my dad has made that claim many times. So
cool.
That's his one big celebrity encounter.
So you grew up with Michael Jordan, is what I'm getting out of that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan growing up, so. Yep.
Because he came to your birthday parties, right? Because your dad beat him at poker?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My dad and him clearly were best friends, yes.
Awesome.
Yep. He also brought along Bugs Bunny and Tasmanian Devil for me, so.
You know who else is best friends?
Who was that?
Senator Chuchi and Miss Jedi Knight Ayla Secura because they are voiced by the same actress.
Are they really? I did not even notice that.
Yep.
That's cool.
I think that we should hit thumbs up, thumbs down so that we can eventually wrap this up and keep some forward momentum before we get too tangential. So, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Sure. No, I'll go first.
All right, Lorenzo, what you got?
I'm going to go ahead and just kick this off with a solid thumbs up from me. Actually. Wow. I really like this episode.
Nice.
I really, really, really like this episode. Obi-Wan and Anakin, we mentioned, kind of take a back seat, but I like the story that was put in the forefront. I like that Chairman Cho was aggressively an asshole. Like, he was super annoying, but it's just the story that needed to be told. Right?
Yep.
I think in terms of this struck a good balance between being it was a story that was told well. You know, the battle scenes didn't bore me like they have in recent episodes or in previous episodes.
Okay.
Where all the fights have gotten to be very similar, especially droid versus clone fights. Mm-hmm. There's only so much you can change, and we're still in season 1, right? But you brought up that the fights were different in this one. There was a lot of cool action happening. I agree. So there's a good story being told. It's being told well through the visual storytelling. I think, again, we kind of forget this sometimes, but as a potential kid watching this, I think this is a good story to be told to them, right?
Like, okay, a good story as in a story that is told well, or a good story like a story with a good moral?
I think both. I think it's important to have a child understand both.
Okay.
Right? Because there's a bad habit of parents just taking their children to whatever their children demand, whether or not it looks like quality.
Okay.
Right? So there's a reason, like Alvin and the Chipmunks is still making money, even though all those movies really suck. Like I gave the first Scooby-Doo movie from like 15 years ago a shot, and that movie is awful. Like, legitimately an awfully made movie.
Both of those were written by James Gunn.
Yes, I am aware. I know. Yeah, the whole Scrappy-Doo thing is... It's a good...
is Scrappy-Doo in the second one?
Just the first one.
Really? Maybe I only remember the second one then.
Yeah, Scrappy-Doo's in the first one because Scrappy-Doo's like the bad guy. Like, it turns out it's Scrappy-Doo the whole fucking time or something weird like that.
You just fucking ruined the movie for me.
There's nothing to ruin. That movie ruins itself. So what I'm saying is that I think there's a bad habit that I would like corrected, and I think hopefully through the show, I think at this point, you kind of understand the way I view media, right? So I think having a child understand the difference between good storytelling and bad storytelling is also important, because I think it's to some degree innate, but parents and children at the same time will sometimes focus too much on grandiose, like potty humor or whatever, right? Which has its place, but you eventually have to get past that, right? Like Shrek has one solid fart joke that lands.
Just one?
Right at the beginning. There's one fart joke at the beginning.
Okay.
But the movie doesn't rest on that, right? The musical, however, does, which is god-awful.
Shrek the musical?
There is Shrek the musical.
Yeah, I know. I used to own it.
Oh, God. It's not great. But children still inherently understand when a good story is being told to them, right?
Okay.
So I think this applies in both manners. I think there's a good moral in terms of the shit with Cho, and I brought it up before regarding his stupidity as like an analogy for dumb racism, right? I think that is done really well.
Okay.
I think it's done in a very it's an analogy that takes hold, it lands, and it's annoying enough to get the point across,
Right.
Right, like it's appropriately annoying is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like the plot point is like he is annoying. That doesn't make me annoyed with the episode itself.
Right. He is designed as a jerk.
Yes.
And that's an oversimplification of his characterization, but
yes, yeah. Yeah,
that's the way his character is designed. I did not look up I didn't make note of who does his voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. No. But whoever does his voice did a good job of playing that role.
I agree, yeah.
I also gave this episode a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, Lorenzo, that this is the third week in a row that you gave this show a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And this is the fourth week in a row that you and I have agreed.
Interesting.
So back on Dooku Captured, we had a 4-way thumbs down with you, me,
That's right.
Peter, and Mike.
Pete and Mike, yeah.
From Rebels. And then the 3 weeks after that, we've been thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Yeah, we've gotten a good turn.
We have not had a 4-week run where you and I gave the same rating to something.
No, definitely not, because either I was consistently thumbs down too often and you would kind of hop back and forth.
I definitely had a long stretch of thumbs up.
Yeah.
In that spat, you started down, then you were up, and then you were down for a long time, and then just the past 3 weeks you've been up.
Yeah.
And aside from my long block of like maybe 7 or 8 thumbs up in a row, then I was kind of back and forth, like down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. So, but
I'm curious if you did mention long ago at some point that you were predicting I would turn at some point.
Did
you make note?
I did not make note of what episode that was. I think I jokingly said that it would be Bombad Jedi, maybe?
And that wasn't too long ago, though, right?
No, that and then the next 3 were down. But
okay.
Since then, you've been up. So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see how this goes for the rest of Season 1 here. So
I will say in 20 episodes, we will be able to tell whether or not my prediction was right, because you were mostly down before that prediction. And then if after that you're mostly up, I will say that I successfully predicted the future.
Yes. That there would be a turn of some sort, yeah. But man, those first episodes, I really did not like any of them. But again, the storytelling has definitely taken a strong turn in terms of these last 3 episodes for sure. I think the problem with a lot of I mentioned it last week, I think. A lot of the previous episodes were they didn't know how to connect to even themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And then finally somebody was like, wait, every episode themselves have to be good, guys. Like the episodes themselves have to have a beginning, middle, and end. Let's focus on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Immediately watching this, I had I was in the thumbs up direction starting from the newsreel, because we didn't start with you just saw this just happened. We started with kind of a synopsis of what we're walking into. Like it felt more to me like the opening crawl.
I agree.
Because it was, this is what happened to get us in the situation of this story, not previously on, here's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I dislike the way that those newsreels work, but this newsreel put a good feeling inside of me from the get-go, and then from there it just kept going on. I won't reiterate all the things that you've already said, positive storytelling and everything else, blah, blah. I agree with all of those things. And then there were some other things that I liked along the way, one of which was Jennifer Hale's portrayal of Senator Rio Chuchi. She had this really nice, I don't even know what type of of accent you want to call this.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know if it's Kiwi. I don't know if it's... Like,
There's some, like, mixture of dialects that if she were trying to affect a real accent, it would have bothered me so much. But because this is a made-up universe and accents can be whatever the hell they want them to be,
yeah,
right?
Like, the way she talks when she gives this speech, she's like, to die for one's people is a great sacrifice. And I'm like, this is fucking golden. Like, I don't know. It just made me smile. It was fun.
In anything else, I would have wanted to punch that character in the face, right? Like, I don't know if you watch, but like, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl are fucking awful with the accents. For whatever reason, they keep hiring Americans to play English people, and English people to play Americans, and for whatever reason, nobody gets the fucking accents right, even the American accents, which is really fucking annoying, because I feel like an American accent is just, it's so stupid and dumb that anybody can affect an American accent and get away with it, no problem. But there's
I don't know
else.
if I agree with you there. I've heard some people from America that don't know how to speak with an American accent.
Well, look, if you're trying to affect very regional accents, like affecting a southern accent, if you're not actually from this country and you're not familiar with it, you don't understand the concept of the American South, or the difference between a southern accent versus, say, a Texas accent versus a surfer Californian accent versus a Minnesota accent.
Or a Bostonian accent as opposed to a New York accent as opposed to
just basic Midwest
Toydarian accent.
Yeah. But again, so being in a universe all its own, it's just her and Cho that we meet.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think we've run into problems before is, you brought it up with the Toydarians, where they all have their own accent, so we don't understand the internal logic.
Yeah, he had a little bit of something that kind of matched whatever was going on with her inflection and accentuation, and it wasn't enough to be bothersome, but it was enough for me to notice and crack a smile. So stuff like that, you know, I'll give thumbs up to. We've actually seen both these Taos characters and these Pantorians before in the live action films.
Yeah, I thought the Taos looked familiar.
So
right?
there is a Taos in the cantina.
Yeah.
On Tatooine.
On Tatooine, right?
So when you read like the Wikipedia article, I read the beginning of it, and it's like the Taos are a primitive species from Orto Plutonia, and, you know, were non-spacefaring species discovered during the Clone Wars. And then it says, like, after that, it's like, but then
they fucking go.
Then they were found across the galaxy.
Yeah.
So
it's like the story of the Amish, right? Like, you can stay or you can go to the big city.
And in the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars, there was a Tal's Jedi.
Was there?
So
I need to rewatch that.
Right, that is not canon anymore.
Well,
but they have popped up in various places in canon and not in canon, other than just the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The blue people, the Pantorians. Did you recognize them? Like, they're blue toned in skin, but they also have like some slight markings on their face, which I don't know if this is supposed to be birthmarks or tattoos. Right.
Yeah.
So one Mr. George Lucas played a Baron Papanoidea in Revenge of the Sith
at the opera.
And he is a Pantorian.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So then also his daughter, which I believe would have been Katie Lucas, because he has two daughters. One of them's Katie and the other one I don't know, because I think she was credited in either The Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones as like Tiger something, because at the time she was into like UFC fighting, and that was like her UFC fighting name or something.
All right.
So I don't remember what her name is, but I believe it's Katie Lucas is a Pantorian also standing there talking to Baron Papanoidea outside of the water bubble calamarian.
Yeah, like
opera.
the weird Cirque du Soleil opera thing that's happening. Yeah. Also, like, I'm trying to watch this fucking show. Why are you guys talking about this whole story about some dude killing a dude? Like, what are you guys doing? Go outside, damn. Like, yeah.
I think that in the novelization, which is no longer canon, I think you informed me of the decanonization of the novel.
That one's out.
But I think that they're in the box seats, like, which is where they are. There is some sort of noise cancellation essentially between boxes.
So there's another shield thing that goes up.
Yeah, I don't know that it's like a visual shield that you can see, but there's some sort of like auditory dampener between you and your neighboring box.
Which is cool. That's
so
cool.
So that businessmen could entertain, or bribes could be had, or other things could be going on, and you don't have to worry about the box
somebody
next to you eavesdropping.
Yeah.
But visually, like, you could see that Baron Papanoidea was with Sheev Palpatine, and they were making out or whatever, but you wouldn't be able to hear him making out. You can only see him making out.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I'm sure that technology would exist and work.
Right.
The last thing I want to note about this episode, personally, is that you and I, offhand or off recording, always have a joke about mine. Always stick with one page. I did go backside for this one.
Ooh, he's got like a page and a third.
Yeah, a page and a third. Usually, I'm able to fit my notes onto just one side of a loose leaf paper, whereas Kevin takes notes completely differently than I do.
You're gonna hear some paper shuffling right now.
Yeah, that's all notes for this same episode.
Okay, I have 9 pages of notes, but I will say I periodically change up my note-taking system. So not only do I have 9 pages of notes, but I also have this, and this is my 1-page note of all of my notes. So this is my backup, so I can have less page rustling.
Like the quick reference, yeah.
And this is, I have cliff notes to my notes now. So for each episode, I have, I don't know, probably about 10 pages of notes, but then now I am starting this as well.
Well, the reason I bring that up, because I think the first 5 minutes of this episode alone take up half of my first page, because there is a lot of information that is dropped.
Yep.
But it's handled really well. It's just in a way of manner of note-taking. There's no easy way to be like, well, there's a Chairman Cho, there's a Senator Chuchi, they're on this planet, there's this other planet.
Say Senator Chuchi?
Yes, Senator Chuchi, yep. Chuchi. But there isn't a moment in this episode that's really wasted, right?
I think it's a well put together episode, and
there's no filler here. There's no A plot that's just like a dead plot or anything.
I think that like a montage of scenes from this episode is kind of the load screen when you put in one of the DVDs from the first season. Mm-hmm. This is on disc 3, so it might be on disc 3, it might be on disc 2, right? Mm-hmm. But I have a memory of this being like a good introduction to the Clone Wars, so I don't know if this would have been like the first episode that I would have seen, and then I would have went back and watched the other ones, or what. But it's a well put together episode. It flows well. The content is meaningful enough to the overall story of the Clone Wars, and the execution is engaging. It's not overly wrought with clone on droid fighting.
Yeah.
And the the battles that we do see are engaging, and the plot moves along in a way that you want to know where things are going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
If every episode was like this, I'd be thumbs up all the way down.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, me too. But we'll see how it goes from here. Hopefully, I mean, I'm hoping that this. I honestly don't have much memory of like specific episodes. I remember maybe larger events that happen on this show. So as to what happens where and when and all that, I don't know exactly what's coming up in the near future of the show.
Right.
But I do hope that this momentum is held up, So I have vague memories of, because I think I've talked about this already. I didn't watch this when it aired. I didn't even start watching this show until Disney confirmed that this, for a hot second, this show was out of canon as well.
Okay.
And then Disney was like, you know what? No, we know you guys all just watched the Clone Wars, and you guys really.
I wonder if George Lucas fought for that.
I'm curious too. We'll talk about it when we get to them, but there are a few instances that make me wish that it was not.
Oh, there's definitely some things that I wish in this series as a whole, I wish were not included in canon.
Yes, in the series as a whole, and we will definitely get to this point. And I think that's a good thing to kind of bring up every now and then, is that
I will say that I have seen some, but not all, of the Forces of Destiny mini things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are some things in those that I wish was not included in canon.
I'm going to agree with you there as well. Which is weird because they're literally only 2 minutes long.
Right.
And
I've probably seen 4 of them.
Yeah, I've seen a handful of them.
I need to catch up on those.
I do too. But I mean, it would take like 30 minutes to binge all of them.
So I've got one question, and then...
Yes, go ahead.
I thought I had 2 things. I feel like I have one question and one comment, and then we can get out of here.
Yes, absolutely.
But they might be combined into the same thing. So I'll start with the question, and that is, I log bad guys, right, per episode?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So from the traditional, I'd say for the first half of this episode, from the traditional standpoint of good guys versus bad guys, we're set up to see the Tals as the bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the person that I have marked in the bad guy category is Chairman Cho. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, he's not the bad guy, but he's the antagonist. Does that make sense?
That might be a better description of column I on my spreadsheet, but I already typed bad guy, and I can't go back all the way up there. And
that Google sheet, once you type things in, you can't white it out.
They're set in stone.
There's no way. There's no way to change that. But no, yeah. So he's definitely the antagonist to both Jedi, hell, even C-3PO, and especially Senator Chuchi.
Yes.
So,
and the Tals. He's the all-around
to the Tals. So
he's the all-around driver of destruction in this episode.
Yeah. All right. And so, was there a comment still after that?
I thought there was, but I don't know what it is. So
all right.
I'm waiting. Maybe you've got something to say, and maybe it'll come to me.
Nope. Let's just wrap it up.
I know what it was. Nope. I have a correction. At the beginning of this episode, we were talking about Thrawn alliances, and I said it came out 6 days ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to do math, or I don't know how to read a calendar or something. This episode airs today, obviously today, right? July 25th. And
6 days of this recording, it came out.
No, it comes out July 24th. So yesterday, by way of when you guys are listening to this. I don't know where I came
no way. I have no way to help you out of that one. So,
I don't either.
So I'll throw that pre-order in for myself as of this recording, and then add that to the shelf.
Yep.
So, Anyways.
Yep. So the update is the novel we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, as you are listening to it, is available yesterday.
Yep, so...
That's all I got, man.
If you're into reading those books, get on it. Yeah. We should talk about books at some point. You know, we should have our own, like, between you and me, like, our own, like, little book club, and we can do, like, a episode review of it or something like that.
These aren't the books you're looking for.
You're right. Yeah.
Turn the page. Turn the page.
Keep moving. Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the entire book because, God, that will take us 15 hours on its own to talk about, say, like, Lost Stars or something. That book fucking spans, like, a decade, so...
I'll just read it backwards, and that way we don't have to... we won't get in trouble for copyright infringement, and then you can just play it in reverse.
Right. No, we'll just...
See how that works.
We'll start our own, like, little book club inside of this podcast, in addition to Resistance coming up sometime in October, and then...
And all the stuff we talked about with the MCU.
Yeah.
We're going to be busy.
MCU, Forces of Destiny, I guess we should maybe also actually tackle, shouldn't we? Now that we bring that up.
I've thought about that, and I got some comments on that off air. But,
okay. Let's close this up. We're still under 2 hours, so...
Until next time, until yesterday when you can pick up that book, Thrawn Alliances, you can find us on the interwebs. You can talk to me via Twitter at Not the Nerds. You can talk to Lorenzo on Facebook at Not the Nerds Podcast. Those are about the two social medias that we're using actively currently. I'm working on picking up the pace on some other stuff, and but that's not quite in the works yet. So we'll get to that down the line. And if you want to go old school and shoot us an email, notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. We do not have a physical address, so just send it to the post office under Not the Nerds Podcast, middle of the United States, Midwest, and stick a couple stamps on it. Don't put a return address, and we'll see what happens.
If you know how to mail a thing. I did work with somebody once who asked me how to put a letter in an envelope, and I literally slammed my head on the desk after that happened. I
think I remember the story.
That was fun times. Anyways, we also like to thank Kevin Warren, who made our artwork for us. You can find him on Twitter. Yes,
art illustrator.
Yes, that's the word. We're good with words. We know all the good words. He's on Twitter at They Call Me KW, and also Lindsay, who wrote our music, she didn't write the Star Wars theme, obviously, but she put it together. She produced it. She's awesome. strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. Correct?
Yep, absolutely, man.
All right. I think we did it. Anything else?
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Shazam!
Excelsior!